On side one, you've heard what was probably bluffing behavior, a chest-slapping display followed by what seems to be two creatures arguing between themselves, then a series of more conciliatory vocalizations. You've also heard the voice of one of my companions calling out to the creatures, and what sometimes appears to be their prompt response. For the recording, a stereophonic cassette recorder was located within the shelter, with a wire leading to a remote microphone taped to a tree outside, several yards uphill. The voice of my companion was coming from inside the shelter, while the voice of the creatures was coming from outside, more than 30 yards away, and beyond my view from the shelter's roof, from within the dense stand of timber uphill. From this, you can gauge the dimensions of the vocalizations, the awesome magnitude of the sounds as they reached our ears. Even though they seem very close to the microphone, they're actually far away, perhaps even as much as 150 feet in my own judgment from having heard them firsthand. In all, on this night of October 21st, 1972, what seemed to be two Bigfoot creatures vocalized and carried on for more than an hour and a half before apparently tiring of the game and wandering off. As evidence from their huge footprints the following morning, not once had they stepped into a clearing or area where they would have risked being seen and photographed. Yet they had moved about with apparent ease, at one point almost soundlessly approaching behind the cover of trees to within a few yards of the shelter's door and the hole in the roof where I'd maintained my post. If they'd wanted to bring harm, there was every opportunity. Instead, it seemed as if they were rather contemptuous of us and drawn in by curiosity, or perhaps hunger, even though the food, a few apples, and a pot of fruit-flavored drink was not taken. Were our efforts to make friends with them to any avail? Listen now to another sequence of sound as the same gentleman previously heard stands beside the shelter outside in my view from the roof and strikes up an extraordinary exchange.
I can do that too. Come on. Come on. Come on, I won't hurt you. Let's eat.
Like actors on a stage, there could be little doubt, it seemed, that the creatures, whatever they might be, were playing to us. We were their audience. Listen now to some primitive rhythm and blues, or, as it were, rhythm and blahs.
Come on, boy. Here, baby.
Over the course of 4 years, beginning the summer of 1971, sounds such as these you've just listened to have been heard and recorded many times in and about this High Sierra camp. I've personally listened to them on several occasions, and once for a full night in sub-freezing weather, which stopped all electronically devised methods of detection, including my tape recorder and several self-initiating camera traps. Is the sound source truly Bigfoot, the hair-covered, gigantic man-like creature of legend? Or is it, as some people will suppose, simply an elaborate hoax, a human voice, or the voices of known animals, artfully manipulated and amplified to sound like a very big and unknown creature? As the tapes have yet to be verified by a photograph of the creature, and even as I, myself, have not yet actually seen the creature, one would be on safe ground to reserve some doubt. However, careful tape analysis, acoustical tests, and 2 years of intensive investigation of the circumstances under which the sounds have occurred strongly suggest that they may be exactly what they seem to be, Bigfoot sounding off. What can be said on the basis of scientific scrutiny is that they originated at the time of recording in this camp area and that they were spontaneous. This means that if the vocalizations were human-made, a person capable of remaining undetected would have to have been on the scene dozens of days and nights throughout 20 seasonal months when the camp was occupied and the sounds or other evidence occurred. To obtain sound fidelity and sufficient amplification, a person would have to have packed dozens of pounds of well-insulated, unbreakable electronic gear. To obtain simultaneous sounds, several similarly equipped Confederates would have been needed. To create the footprints, each would have to have had a walking step of from 4 to 7 feet. To reach the area, each would have had to have climbed in rough terrain, a minimum of 2,500 feet in elevation for each staging. All this without detection by from 2 to 6 watchful observers. Is it really the creature Bigfoot, then, which is so incredible? By way of a parting word, perhaps this is the kind of commentary Bigfoot would have on the matter.